All right, welcome to Who's Got Next, your Michigan Wolverines recruiting show here on Maize and Blue Review. I'm Brandon Justice. Got the recruiting editor, Zach Libby, with me today, as always, on the show. We'll be talking to Davis Mosley, our basketball recruiting guy, later this week. But as for today, which is Tuesday, we are talking football recruiting with Zach Libby after, I guess, a decently newsy week in Michigan recruiting. But big visitors this weekend for the game against Maryland. It's homecoming. It's the first Big Ten game of the season. Hawaii was the big visitor weekend, not so much for UConn. We'll talk about the lone OV from the past weekend, but some decent stuff to talk about in the preview for Maryland. Not a whole lot to talk about stemming from UConn, but still enough to fill the show. So with all that in mind, make sure you guys are following us on Twitter and make sure I mute Slack so it doesn't interrupt the show's audio. So we'll do that right now. But make sure you follow us on Twitter at Michigan Rivals and then Instagram and TikTok, Maize and Blue Review. That's enough for housekeeping. I'm Brandon Justice. This is Zach Libby. We'll start with Chris Peel. Mr. Libby, 3-star cornerback from Providence Day. Michigan's got a footprint there, as we know. They're trying to get Jaden Davis, a couple others, Channing Goodwin's son. The list goes on. So just talk about Peel. I know, was he? I'm not sure if he was the one that didn't make it the weekend before and then ended up making it the weekend after. So just break that down for us and where things are at with Michigan and Peel.
Yeah, so he was originally scheduled to be for UConn, and then with Jaden Davis and Channing Goodwin scheduled for Hawaii, there was rumblings that he changed to OV, but then ended up going for UConn, in the end. This was his second time on campus. I think it was good for him to be in UConn, for him to be alone. His last time he was with 3 other teammates from Providence Day, so all the attention went to him. And it really did. If you were at the game and you saw Chris, you see that he got the front row seats right behind the Michigan sideline, which, the recruiting staff does for the OVers, get the best seat possible. He spent a lot of time with Steve Clinksdale, who considers Peel to be one of the top priority targets for the 23 class at cornerback. He spent a lot of time with Denard Robinson, and as you know, Denard has really stepped up his game in terms of being a recruiting impactor on the trail and just, giving these kids a little bit more familiarity and personal experience when they're on campus. So that was good to see. Since he's from Providence Day and he's the oldest one of the 4 that has been up there, if they're able to land him, I think it would mean, it would give Michigan a really big opportunity to land essentially all the other 4 Providence State kids who are offered, and that even includes David Sanders Jr., the 25 offensive tackle, who's now the number 1 player in Rivals.com. Rivals 100 rankings that was released last week. So really big opportunity for the dominoes to fall if they're able to do this. If you go on Maize and Blue Review, you see that Josh Heschke posted that, Georgia now, who was considered a front runner earlier in the summer, is, I guess, not so much now. But we'll see. We'll know more about Michigan's chances with landing Peel after his South Carolina OV, which is next week. But yeah, very good weekend for Michigan. It really moved the needle for them, and we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks.
All right, next name is a bit more familiar. We've kept an eye on him for the past couple of years. Brandon Davis Swain, the 4-star edge rusher out of West Bloomfield, and a guy that's kind of always been there for Michigan, I think, since he was younger. I know there were more focal pointed athletes over the past couple of years, like Donovan Edwards and Makari Page from West Bloomfield, but Anamir Herring, obviously, in this class. But with Brandon Davis Swain in the chamber, what are Michigan's chances with him, and where do they stand after? Did he take a visit this weekend? Tell us about where they're at with Davis Swain.
Yeah, so we've heard that, since Notre Dame is 1-3 in the Marcus Freeman area, it's kind of allowed Michigan to kind of back in with some former Michigan targets who are now committed to Notre Dame. We haven't reported on anything just because we wanted solid evidence, but for the fact that Davis Swain, who committed in the spring to Notre Dame, is back for an unofficial visit, meant a lot in terms of Michigan kind of getting back into things. Davis Swain is with West Bloomfield, and obviously we know it's teammates with Amir Herring and Samaj Morgan, who are committed in 23 class. I know they're doing everything that they can to flip Davis Swain. When they were at the visit last week, they were together the entire time, never left each other's hips. So it's good to see, you know, Dave Swain having that familiarity back in a school that reportedly is still interested in. You know, for a kid who I've seen a couple of times in the off season, like this kid's a camp legend, like one of the more elite edge rushers in the 24 class, and that speaks on behalf of his ranking right now in the Rivals 100. So to Michigan to not only flip possibly an Notre Dame commit, but also keep one of the top edge rushers in the state home would be a big deal. And for, you know, for Michigan to get help with current commits, like I said, with Amir and Samaj will only help make the difference. So I don't expect him to not come back anytime soon. So it would be a good opportunity to really hone in and, you know, keep that pipeline going.
Do you have any timeline for Davis Swain when you think he might make his decision, or if there will be a decision? Do you think it's something that just needs to kind of happen for Michigan to flip him, and when that time comes, it will come, and until then he's just going to hang out as a Notre Dame commit? Or do you think there's maybe a decommitment first and then he kind of restarts the process through his senior year? Any idea what might happen there, or is it just kind of like throwing darts at this point with his situation?
Yeah, I mean, when he committed, he literally committed like on the spot of the spring game. So like no one even expected him to do it. Like there's literally a video of him in Freeman's office, like telling him I'm committing, and like even Freeman was caught off by surprise. So, you know, there's probably a kid who doesn't really have a timeline for anything. I mean, that's pretty much what most recruits are sometimes too. So, I'm actually going to go see him tomorrow. So we're going to see what is actually how he felt about his visit, and talk to his teammates too and see how they're doing with, like we said, flipping him.
All right. On to Marvin Stewart. You put in a forecast for him. I believe the Chicago wideout. Talk a bit about, I know he's in the junior class, so still some time there. But you feel good about Michigan's chances with Stewart, as evidenced by your FutureCast. And if you're listening and you're not familiar with the Rivals interface, the FutureCast is where Zach, our recruiting editor, makes his predictions on where recruits might end up. And typically when you make that call, you do it with great confidence. We were not really doing them with a low barometer. It's strictly like a what would you say, like an above 80%, above 90% threshold? I'll let you explain this one specifically, but typically speaking, right around there. So you've got one in for Michigan on Stewart. Talk about that decision and what led you to making that call, and how Stewart's visit for the UConn game went this past weekend.
Yeah, so we saw him actually last month during fall camp when we made that swing through Chicago, you know, last month. He actually said that he was looking to go to the Michigan State game, which happens in October. So for him to be a late addition for the UConn game was a big deal. I wrote in his recap that he was obviously one of the main headliners outside of, you know, the 23 commits and Chris Beal, who was the lone OVer. So having him back so soon after being there for the barbecue at the Big House was a big deal. Ron Bellamy sees him as a versatile weapon where he can either line up in the slot or the outside. This kid has a lot of connections to Michigan too. He's friends with Tyler Morris. He's friends with AJ Henning. He's played on the same 7-on-7 team with JJ McCarthy. He's also former teammates at Bolingbrook High with Tyler McLaurin. You know, the age Tyler and both Tylers actually have been really key in, you know, getting Amarion to, you know, continue that Chicagoland pipeline that Michigan has had success with for so many years, this decade and prior ones. So I think having that familiarity on campus, as well as a great relationship with Ron Bellamy, as well as Sharon Moore and Jim Harbaugh, it really has really made me propel to make that FutureCast. He said he's going to make it to at least 2 more games this season. Probably Michigan State and maybe something else. He's actually going to be in the Ann Arbor area more than that too, because his brother Ishan Stewart plays for Eastern Michigan after transferring from Oregon State. So yeah, no, he said Michigan's already in his top 5, so it's already, you know, my FutureCast is already, you know, showing it might come true. Tennessee is also one to look out for. He's going to be there when they host Florida. Other schools that he's trying to look out to see are the ones out west, because he has an offer from Oregon and Arizona State. I know Arizona State has those sanctions, but I mean, it's still Arizona State. He has a couple others down south. So This one that might be a little bit longer, but I still feel confident that Michigan will be able to land Stewart and, like I said, have that pipeline, continue through the 24 class.
All right. So with all that in mind, anything you want to add in from this past Saturday, maybe from the Hawaii game, maybe you didn't feel that you didn't cover at all? Anything in between there before we move on to Maryland week?
So for the Hawaii game, obviously, we know that McDonald was the lone official visitor for that one. He's one that
Zach, you got to tell us who McDonald is, baby. You got to give us a position and a rating.
2023, suburban Atlanta, Rivals 250, defensive tackle.
There you go.
This is a kid who went up for the first time in mid-June during an important official visitor weekend. So having him in Hawaii really gave him that attention and that personal time with the defensive staff, especially Jesse Minter and Mike Lston. McDonald has quite a few connections to the program as well. He's friends with Chris Hinton, being that they're the same area. Hinton has kind of helped with the recruiting process because he's, specifically told McDonald, like, you are the top defensive tackle on the board. So having that connection is really helping. He also knows DJ Turner. He's also, like I said, really close with Minter and Elston. They actually picked him up at the airport right when the OV started. So, it just shows how important he is to that class and how quickly they're going after him. He said that it was a really good time. Harbaugh was super funny, which is kind of the commonality between every single visitor that it's able to talk to him. They were able to play like video games together, watch football last Sunday, like for the opening week. So having that personal time, really Harbaugh has, been able to seal the deal during these meetings. So that was big. He's supposed to take more OVs to Oklahoma, Ohio State, and probably go back to Clemson. His expected commitment dates on Halloween. We've wrote before that Clemson's probably the perceived leader, but having that solid OV, especially during a night game, which, it's the 12th one in program history. So having that experience probably really catapulted Michigan to at least a comfortable position and feeling good about their chances.
All right. With that, we move on to Maryland weekend. It's homecoming on Saturday for Michigan. As far as the current team goes, they are favored by 17.5 points. But in the world of recruiting, Michigan's 4-game homestand comes to a close this weekend before they travel to Iowa next weekend, or will be. Are you going to Iowa for photo? I don't think you are you?
No, it's just you.
It wouldn't be an episode of Who's Got Next if Libby's phone didn't ding. So with Iowa next weekend, this is the last of the 4-game homestand. So this is Michigan's last chance with some visitors before it gets a little bit of a break. Obviously, the Michigan State and Penn State game are still looming and will be, I think, should be two of the bigger recruiting weekends. One of them could be a night game for all we know, based on how the last night game went. Hopefully not, because my sleep schedule still hasn't recovered from that, as you know. But this is the last weekend for a couple where Michigan's going to have an opportunity with some recruits, and they're going out with a bang here with the two of the visitors that are coming in. At least one of them is certainly a stud in Nyckoles Harbor, or Nyckoles, or however it might be spelt, but he's a 5-star. He plays both sides of the ball, wants to play offense. So many people think he's going to play defense, right? So, Zach, tell us about Harper. I know you went down and saw him a few weeks ago when we talked about it on the show. Now that he's coming to Michigan, the opportunity that they have with him, is it real? Is it attainable? And what will work for them this weekend in the chase for Harper?
I mean, if it's strictly football and academics, Michigan is like the commander, the sole front runner, right? Like South Carolina hosted Harper last week, and they got absolutely destroyed by Georgia. And LSU, I mean, who knows what they're going to be under Brian Kelly's first year. And I know he's going to LSU October 7th. It's the weekend of October 7th. So, like I said, if it's strictly football and if he's really that if he cares that much about academics, I mean, he does because his mom's a pharmacist and his dad is a NASA engineer. So,
Not bad.
Yeah, good for him. No, Michigan has solid reasoning for, to get Harbor. Like I said, this kid cares about his school. He cares about his success on the football field. The only problem is the track and field aspect and distance. I know Michigan's track and field is not really up to par with the SEC schools just because training doesn't really last as long. You get more time outdoors in the South. But the NIL deals too. I mean, LSU is going all out with that aspect, and South Carolina's, quickly, reveling or committing itself to it. So, no, this might be one that we won't know more about until later on, late fall. This might even go into National Signing Day, if we're honest, because he still is thinking about going to Maryland. He's still thinking about going to USC. So,
the first signing day or the second one?
First.
Do we know that he's scheduled for that? He wants to commit early. He wants to early enroll. All those things. Yeah. Typically, those things are they kind of marry themselves when you're high academic. I think those kids are often end up coming in early. Any status on that?
Nah, no. He hasn't said anything about that.
Still got some time to figure that out. All right. So I guess my question with Harper is what do you foresee for him at the college level? I guess is it a defense thing? I know defense is kind of what everyone is labeling him as, but based on what you said last time, he really is trying to make a push to play offense too. Is this like a Devin Asiasi thing where Devin Asiasi thought he could play defensive end, but everyone knew he was a tight end? Is it like Micah Parsons, where Micah Parsons thought, hey, I can go play running back at Penn State too, but like everyone knows he's a linebacker? Is it one of those things where he wants to, but everyone knows he's going to play defense? Or is it like, and there's their actual substance to him potentially playing offense?
I mean, Michigan's going to take him regardless, even if he's like dead set on playing tight end or flexed out, receiver. Like, you don't say no to a guy like with his talent and his ceiling. I've seen from my game that I've seen him play, and this was against Gonzaga College, which we know is 23 commit Evan Link's school. But no, I think where he's going to get his money in the NFL is going to be at edge rushing.
Agreed, by the way.
Cool. I think he believes tight end and, wide receiver is his calling just because of his track times. And if you don't know how fast this kid is, just look him up on YouTube. But from an offensive player's perspective, I think he has more to work on in terms of development than edge. Like, he's not a true route runner. He doesn't have the best hands. He relies just on his speed to break out and to get open and create separation, which, if you get to the college level and you play in the SEC or Big Ten, you have better cornerbacks who are able to lock down to the hip.
So he's going to play edge.
Yeah.
He has no technical skills at wide receiver besides his physical attributes, so he's going to play edge.
It would just be smart. Like, if you see this, I mean, he'll have to work on some sort of pass rush move other than the bull rush. But for a kid his size, like, he can get away with it at the high school level. Right. But under more development,
right now. Sure.
Yeah. But if he wants true development, Mike Elston's the guy. So it would just be smart on his end.
Yeah, Mike Elston's done a really good job this year internally, right? I mean, we've seen the defensive line play has been good. Not a concern for Michigan at all as they enter conference play. Ironically, it's been kind of the O-line play, even though that was supposed to be like the most sure thing. But besides the point, but Mike Elston, I guess before we go into any of the other visitors, what have you seen from him so far? It's his first year recruiting for Michigan, but he was at Notre Dame for 13 years. As we know, former Michigan linebacker, goes to Notre Dame to be a GA, scales all the way up, stays there for, almost 15 years, has tags like recruiting coordinator for the bulk of his tenure there, but was always doing something else, was always doing multiple things at Notre Dame. If he was the linebackers coach, he was also the recruiting coordinator. If he was, the defensive line coach, he was also the recruiting coordinator and the special teams coordinator. Like, he had so many tags at Notre Dame. So there's no questioning his experience and what he brings to Michigan. But so far through his first, how long has he been here? Maybe 6-7 months total. What have you seen from him as a recruiter? How have Michigan targets, I guess, reacted to him? And how much do you think this defensive line success this season that might be an aid for him on the trail.
Yeah, I mean, if you like, he has 3 edge rush commits, 1 internationally, one in the Rivals 250, another one that probably could be in the Rivals 250 if he didn't tear his meniscus. You have another one from Chicago, who has specifically told us that Elston went out of his way to let him be part, to know more than just Elston, his wife, his kids. Like, this kid is, I mean, this coach is really personable. Like, he's more of the more down-to-earth coaches. He's not really like a hoorah kind of guy, like,
yeah, you can tell in his pressers. You can tell when he talks that he's that kind of guy for sure. That's a good point.
But I think that's
give us the names. Who are the 3? I know we got American Kambuya from France, but who are the other edge rushers he's brought in this year?
Sorry. Eno Etta from the Dallas Metroplex. His trainer, his year-round trainer, edge trainer, has a really good relationship with Elston. Etta wasn't really a Texas guy, like a true Texas guy, so going out to Michigan was a big deal. You fans who follow recruiting probably remember the Michigan and Michigan State battle that happened back in June. So that, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, do it. But yeah, no, Elston was really key in making, landing that sky. But Colin Chiampon is another one who has probably the highest ceiling among anyone in this class.
Staff loves this kid, like loves him. And he's got like spider freaky type of twitch to him that I think is probably going to be dangerous. But keep going. Sorry.
No, I mean, you just said everything that I was going to say. But, he actually tore his meniscus last week, which he's getting surgery tomorrow. He's actually going to come back probably as late this season. I mean,
I was going to say, typically if you get surgery on a meniscus, you're good in 4 weeks probably, I would say.
Something like that. Like if he tore his ACL, we'd say a different story. But
right, exactly.
But no, getting a kid from Southern California like him, and believe in his ceiling just because he's only played 1 full year of high school football, not including this year. So, this kid was a camp god. And, the coaches saw that and are really high on him, like you said. But no, the one I'm referring to with getting to know the family is Brooks Barr from Chicago.
Right.
Yeah. Elston, they've known each other since Notre Dame. But, Elston really is – Elston and his family in general are kind of like one of those people that are will do things outside the scenes. Like, you don't really know what they do until they recruits actually tell you. And, for him to really let these recruits become part of his family, even the ones that are currently on the roster, just to have a new D-line coach. And if you saw that Twitter post, he made his whole family made cookies for each of the folks that got sacks against Colorado State. So I think for someone who's been here, has played here, and understands what it takes to be a Michigan man, I think Elston's going to go after players like that.
I think his hiring was kind of a bucket, right? We didn't really even bat an eye. We thought, okay, this is about as good as a hire as you can get this year, this whole cycle. To bring in Elston was enormous for Michigan, regardless of the past connection in that he played here, just in the fact of what he did at Notre Dame and the length of time he was doing it at Notre Dame. You're talking, nearly 15 years. And so to pull someone like that and as successful and as proven as he was and still is, pretty undeniable. So just wanted to check in, see how you thought he was doing on the trail. I know he came here with recruiting chops, and we figured it would easily translate seamlessly, and it sure enough has. And my power just kicked in and out. I don't know how we survived that, but we did, and I'm really happy. But my power did just kick in and out. So you got to love Michigan Falls, and you got to love AT&T. I don't even know if this is a them thing. This might be a DTE thing. I don't know. That was really weird. It was on and off in the matter of a click of a second. If you're listening at home and you're not watching, I am mind blown, if you can tell by my face. But if you're listening and you can't tell, just so you know, I'm mind blown. But moving on, back to recruiting, back to football. Not my power. So Maryland OVs this weekend outside of Harbor. Break down to us who is coming to town for this game on Saturday. I know you got one guy you want to highlight, but any other ones outside of Harbor? I know we got the interior O-lineman you're going to break down, but outside of him, any ones you want to add on to there? I'll let you start with Elobi or Efobi. I can't say it. These names are getting ridiculous. I'm all for it, but Collins, I'm just going to call him Collins. Everyone should know what that means. I'm just going to call him Collins. And then I want to call Americ kombucha, because I don't know how to say kombucha right without me sounding like I'm butchering it. It's similar to like me saying Ayabi and Oma. I don't know how to do that one either. So I'm doing the best I can, but break down who we're seeing on the field against Maryland on Saturday outside of just Harper.
For a team guy, you're doing a good job.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. I want to say one thing about
Harper
Harper.
Recruiting guy, so I get it. All right, I get it.
We got to stick together. One thing about Harper before we get into the OVs, I know we talked about Lston, but Ron Bellamy is actually leading the Harper recruitment just because he has the DMV connections and he's leading that area.
And Bell he did that with Amarian Walker last year. I know that Bellamy coaches receivers now, but last year, even before there was a plan for him to transition, which was premature. Like he didn't become the wide receiver coach in the moment that he became the wide receiver coach. Like that was kind of etched out, but before it even got to that point, he was recruiting Amarian Walker because of his New Orleans connections, right? That's where Bellamy's from. But did not know he had the DMV connect. I mean, shoot, dude. But where does Bellamy not have connections? I think is the first thing. But not shocked to see him go after another position. It's not the first time. So if people at home are still wondering about the strategy of how Michigan recruits, that's really a topic for an off-season show that we could go over for like an hour, because I don't know. I don't feel like any of them have like single territories. I don't feel like they have single positions. It's really like almost random. They certainly give Bellamy and Coach Klink the baton, and they're like, "Hey, do what you want with this. You're our recruiting aces," and it plays well sometimes. You know, you get guys like Murray and Walker. We'll see, but anyway, keep going. I'm just pointing out to the people at home, not irregular to see Bellamy recruiting a position that's not his.
Yeah, I mean, the East Coast really is like, I know we're getting off topic, but like the East Coast is so like well coordinated. Like you got Mike Hart in like the Virginia Beach area. Albert Karshnia, the recruiting director, is in that area too. Grant Newsom has connections in New Jersey and Pennsylvania from his time there. So, I mean, that whole East Coast area is pretty locked down. I mean, Samaj Bridgman in particular with Evan Link, like, I mean, you're already seeing results in the 23 class. So it's good to see what will happen in the future. But yeah, with the Maryland OVs, you have Harbor, and then you have another one from the Atlanta area, Nathan Afobe, a 3-star lineman. He's a two-way player, but Michigan's recruiting him as an interior offensive lineman to pair with Amir Herring. I think Michigan kind of wants at least 2 more offensive line additions to the class. You know, if they can get 1 more tackle and 1 more guard, I think that would be great. And I think, you know, Sherrone Moore is doing everything that he can, hence the amount of July offers that he handed out, and more future visits in the way in the next couple of months. But yeah, no, Afobe is interesting because when he got the offer, he actually tweeted like Dream School, and you know what Dream School, like it's a jinx, but regardless, you know, it's still something to worthwhile. When we talked to him, he actually wanted to visit as early as possible, which meant for like the barbecue back in July. It didn't happen, but for him to schedule his OV immediately afterwards for the first Big Ten game of the season is big. This kid has the same frame as Amir, probably 10 pounds lighter, but they're similar in styles in terms of maulers in the run game and efficient in the pass game. If you look on his profile in Rivals, he's listed defensive lineman, but like I said, this is an offensive line target. Afobe is also interesting because his rating on the main recruiting services isn't consensus. Like you think, like, you know, most recruits kind of have the same positioning or star rating, but if you go on others, like some have them higher, some have them lower than Rivals, so no one really knows his ceiling. But in terms of being an offensive lineman, I think his true calling is going to be guard or center. In terms of how Michigan can able to land him, they're going to get a lot of help from actually the Ojabo family with David and his mother. Afobe's mother and Ojabo's mother are actually childhood friends and are still best friends. Even before Phoebe was offered, you know, the matriarch of the Ajabo family was going on and on about how much love she has for the program and what they did for her son, and, you know, finding his dream of being an NFL draft pick. Phoebe talks to like Ajabo like once in a while, but I think it'll greatly pick up once he does his OV and, you know, considers Michigan. He actually had a top 10 before he got the offer, and now Michigan is right back into it in terms of being a leader. This is one that really Michigan could shut down the recruitment during the OV. Like, I think he has a lot of interest in Michigan, and Sherrone Moore, he has a lot of interest and respect for Sherrone Moore, and I think they can really pull this off as soon as next week.
All right. Well, they're going to go to Iowa next weekend, but Maryland is still ahead. They still have some visitors this weekend. Two big ones on the agenda in Phoebe and Harbor. You will keep us updated on michigan.rivals.com throughout, and make sure you guys go sign up today. It's $9.99 a month, but we've got this sneaky little special going right now. It's free through basketball season. All you got to do is use code. Let me find our code. I don't know why. We change our codes too much, Zach. This one is just a couple of letters, and it's a little bit confusing, so I got to make sure I don't mess it up.
Wait, I got it. UMB2B.
UMB2B? That's what I thought, but I didn't want to lead the people the wrong way. That would be rude. So I'm going to put it up here on the banner so everyone knows what code to use if you're watching at home. It is free through basketball season. All right. So once basketball season gets here, you'll still have it for free. And then from there, it's $9.99 a month. Of course, the idea here is we want to earn your business, keep you around. Of course, you can cancel after your free trial ends, but we want to make that decision easy for you come time for basketball season. But yeah, use code UMB2B on michigan.rivals.com today. That'll get you a free trial to try us out. You can go into the den, our message board, and our forum, and meet all kinds of great people. If you're into Franz Wagner, he's got a different reputation on the den than he does in the NBA. But we have all kinds of fun members to interact with. The community is truly exclusive. If you're a diehard Michigan fan and you need intel, if you're interested in recruiting, or you're interested in chopping it up with a bunch of diehard fans like yourself, or doing all three at once, this is the place to do it. So come join us. Use code UMB2B. It's free through basketball season. That does it today for this edition of Who's Got Next. We will talk to you guys later this week with Davis Mosley, talking more basketball recruiting. Zach might join us for that, maybe, if there's anything relevant for him to discuss in that show. We'll have him on. If not, then we'll talk to Zach next week on Tuesday and recap what is supposed to be and what should be a big weekend in Michigan recruiting. Maybe not from a numbers perspective, but from the quantity of Harbor and Foley coming in. Pretty big, pretty sizable weekend. So make sure you guys stay tuned to our socials, Michigan Rivals on Twitter, and then Maize Blue Review on Instagram and TikTok. Make sure you follow Zach on Twitter at Zach Libby, or he Rivals Libby now, at Rivals Libby. And then you can follow me at Brandon Justice _ I should be a company man, but Rivals in there, but I have not done that yet. So appreciate you guys tuning in today. We will talk to you guys next week. Enjoy the week, and make sure you go sign up today, UMB2B.